This clip that you're about to see here from the debate is Trump stumbling on something that was good. It was a good line of attack. It really was. And then he just steers the car right into the ditch and messes it up.
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
He did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
So he starts out by hitting him on the 1994 crime bill, which Joe wrote. He didn't just vote for it. He wrote it, at least in part. I don't know if he wrote the whole thing. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. And he brings up, now to be fair, I don't know if Joe was the one who said super predator, unless he also said it. Hillary said that. Maybe Joe said it, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But hitting him on the crime bill makes sense because the crime bill led to the current crisis of mass incarceration, and which disproportionately impacted people of color. It's true. It's absolutely true. So Trump hits him on that. Totally fair game, totally legitimate point. Now, he messed up a little bit even up front because he didn't bring up that he signed the First Step Act, which would have been good to bring up. He also didn't bring up that he pardoned Alice Johnson, which would have been a great thing to bring up. So he messed up there, but he really, really, really screwed up the entire line of attack when he went from hitting him on the crime bill, so basically arguing you're too tough on crime, you're locking people up for nonviolent offenses, and then he goes to, I believe in law and order, you don't believe in law and order, you're soft on crime. So the argument is, Joe, you're too tough on crime, and you're too soft on crime. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Trump really needs to get these things ironed out. He doesn't realize that a contradiction is a thing. Like, I get it. You're in a race against Joe. You want to hit Joe however the hell you can hit Joe. Like, I got it. That's obvious. That's clear. I see it. But it has to be logically consistent and coherent. You can't just use any and all arguments. And that's really what he's doing. He's using any and all arguments. And some of them are just terrible arguments. Like, by the way, the polls show that on Law and Order, Biden is beating Trump. That people don't, as much as Trump likes to portray himself as a law and order president, people don't view him that way. Why? Well, for example, remember when he tear gassed peaceful protesters to do a photo op with a Bible in front of a church? People looked at that and said, oh, you're the chaos president. You're not for law and order. You just gas peaceful protesters. It's not law and order at all. You're committing the crimes in many instances. Right or wrong? Completely right. So people get that. People see that. And Trump kept contradicting himself. There's another part, and we'll cover this in a little bit, but there was another part where Trump brings up how the election is so fraudulent. It's such a fraud. All these things going on with the ballots, totally unacceptable, totally not cool, horrendous. And then he seamlessly goes from that to, and I think we're going to do really well in this election because people love the job we're doing. The election's a total fraud, and we're going to win it because people really love what we're doing. Wait, is it a fraud? Or are you going to win it and it's legitimate? Which is it? You can't say it's a fraud and then, like, you win and then you flip that, right? Like, no, if it's a fraud, then even if you win, you should be like, this is illegitimate. I got to hand it to Biden. Because it was illegitimate from the beginning. I think it was fraudulent. It's not like it's not fraudulent now that I won. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just endless contradictions. Listen, this is evidence for the theory that Trump is all impulse all the time. When you're all impulse all the time, yeah, you'll contradict yourself quite a bit. And that's what we're seeing here. I was prepared. When I first heard him attack him over the crime bill, I was like, oh, wow. So I thought I would be doing a segment where it would just be like, listen, got to hand it to Trump. This was a good line of attack. He destroyed Biden on this. It's correct. Biden locked up so many poor people and people of color. Got to acknowledge reality. I thought that would be the segment that I'm doing. But then he slowly but surely ruined his own line of attack by contradicting it. And on that front, Biden is ripe for criticism. I don't even think he brought up the Iraq War or the Patriot Act or NAFTA. I don't even think he brought... These are the things he's weakest on. How do you not bring that up? And when you bring up one thing that made sense, the crime bill, you immediately ruined your own point. I mean, I know I said it 1,000 times, but I'm going to say it again. Trump is in trouble. I'm just about ready to pound the gavel.